Welcome to Straight Talk with Sandra Reich. Are you trying to master the game of life without success? There are secrets and strategies to living your best life. We'll share some of them with you on today's show. Take advantage of this series to become an expert at relationships. All relationships. It's time to live the life that you deserve to live. Now, here's your host, Sandra Reich.
Hello and welcome back to Straight Talk with Sandra Reich. Very exciting show for so many different reasons. Love always doing Straight Talk, and we're flirting around with some new things, and I think everyone listening is going to be excited. Number one, we are streaming again on Facebook. So if you want to follow us on Facebook, if you go on Straight Talk Sandra Reich right now, you can actually listen to the show and watch it at the same time. And that allows you also to write in with any questions or comments. Now, on the topic of questions or comments, we have actually a nice gift today for a caller who calls in. So if you do have a question and you're a little shy, this might be the time to consider calling in. Ask Georgia or myself. Georgia's going to be my special guest. I'll tell you all about her in a minute. Call 1-866-472-5792. Any questions on boundaries or consequences, or really any topic at all, psychological or anything that we've talked about. Maybe not where I bought my sweater, but pretty much anything else would be great. And if you really want to know where I bought my sweater, I'll be happy to tell you too. Just kidding. What else do I want to tell you? Well, we're starting something new on Straight Talk, which is that I'm having my guests come on and bring a special gift. And what's really nice about that is that you, the listener, is going to get the gift for free. So stay tuned, and I'm going to tell you what the gift is today from Anxiety Videos, and it is a really great gift, and one that can really affect and change your life today. And that's what I like. What else do I want to say right now? Well, we started last week on Boundaries and Consequences Part 1, and I've gotten tons of feedback on Facebook and in my sessions this week on how the show affected people. The comments were good, although what was interesting is sometimes people got so inspired by the show that they started to put boundaries down in their personal lives, and trouble erupted. So I want to start by mentioning that that is completely normal, because what happens is if you're in a relationship and there have not been any boundaries, or you have a teenage child and there have been no boundaries till now, or even a small child or a coworker, what's going to happen is when you actually put the boundaries down, there's going to be resistance. Now, the person who has not had boundaries, this isn't always so conscious, so I don't want you to think that people are so awful, it's a natural impulse to try to go back to homeostasis. So this is a term that we use even about our bodies. Our body always returns to homeostasis, to where it feels normal. So if I'm trying to work on my posture, if you're seeing me on Facebook, my body's going to go back to what I'm comfortable with. Well, it's the same with boundaries and consequences. You go home, you listen to the show, and someone told me this story. You go home and you start to say, I have a boundary with my husband. Like, honey, I've realized this is not okay what you do. And the husband or the wife this is new, so they're not going to be going, oh, great, you have a boundary. What's most likely going to happen is that the person's going to try to dismiss the boundary or try to ignore it and bring your relationship back to homeostasis. I mean, after all, they did have a free ride for a long time. Why do they want boundaries? I'm going to go back to the example I used last week. If there were no stop signs, okay, although we all admit that speed limits and stop signs make us feel safe, if there were no stop signs, and all of a sudden there were stop signs, we'd have a public outcry of people saying, I don't think it's fair, there shouldn't be stop signs. And we know this to be true because we know, I'm going to date myself, but we know when the seatbelt laws came in, there was resistance. When the cell phone laws came in, there was resistance. So there is resistance when you first put boundaries. So for those of you listening who listened last week and tried to apply, and chapeau, hats to you that you try to apply this, and you're feeling a little bit like, wow, I got resistance, I don't know if I like this. It's normal, okay? So I want to encourage you to stick with it. Now, the thing about boundaries is if you don't stick with it, you are teaching the other person not to take you seriously. And we absolutely can't have that. So once you put a boundary, now we're going to talk with Georgia soon, but boundaries are different for different people. But once you put the boundary, you sort of want to stand behind it, unless it was something outrageous and you've rethought it. Because otherwise the person will get the idea that if they resist you, that works. So if your teenager right now is giving you oodles of trouble because you put a boundary down, consider this good news. This means it's working. They're trying to get under your skin because they're not happy. That's what we want. Now, you're going to say, we're evil people. Why do you want to get under their skin? No, we're trying to teach a very important concept, which is that there has to be respect in relationships. So, very important to consider going forward that starting boundaries when you haven't had them is difficult. And your consequences, your first set of consequences, I heard from some people this week, their first set of consequences didn't work. I'm not surprised. It happens. You put sometimes some consequences down and the person may feel like, I don't care. You're taking my phone away. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. If you're a parent, if you're a partner, you need to find a consequence that the person will feel. And don't expect that they're going to come to you and say, that really hurt. They don't want you to know it really hurts. I'm looking at Georgia. She's smiling from ear to ear. They don't want to know. They don't want you to know that because they want you to think it's not affecting them. So that's one of the biggest feedbacks I got since last week is that the boundaries were being resisted. Makes sense. Unfortunately, when there haven't been boundaries in a relationship, there is a learning curve. So hang in there, guys. But believe me, this will change your relationships. And like I said to someone I spoke to, is that once you put the boundary down, you have to mean business or else it's going to backfire on you. So hang in, stick it out. You will be respected. That was one thing that really stood out from last week's show. And a lot of people also talked about that they didn't know what their boundaries were. And, you know, when the commercial comes, I'm going to ask you to take a piece of paper out and try to think of some of your boundaries. And you might say now, well, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. Well, let me put it this way. Where do you draw the line? Where is it if somebody goes too far? What is too far? So how about if I'm in a session with a client and they slap my face? That's too far. Okay. How about if you're in a relationship with somebody and they're on their cell phone and ignoring you when you speak? Is that too far for you? I don't know. It's too far for me. What if your child swears at you, disrespects you, talks sassy, as people say? I'm dating myself again. Is that too far? So on the commercial break, get that piece of paper and write down things that you feel are non-negotiable for you. Now, before we get to that time, I definitely want to talk about my special guest today. You know, I get excited every time she's on the show, that to the point that if you listen to Straight Talk episodes, when Georgia Dow is on the show, I tend to talk a mile a minute. Notice I'm trying to talk slower. Why do I get so excited? She's amazing. She's brilliant. She's caring. She is a top clinician here at the Montreal Centre for Anxiety and Depression and has helped thousands of people overcome anxiety. And in a fun, wonderful way. The joke at the clinic is that her clients leave laughing. Mine often leave crying. That's a whole other topic. But she does something very special. She makes people see the humor even in difficulties. She is also a podcast host on many, many different shows. She'll tell us about that. And after working with her for years, there was no question I wanted to open a business with her, and I did. We own together a company called AnxietyVideos.com, where you can get treatment for anxiety in the comfort of your house. So she is also, I'm not quite finished. She is also, you know, just the Canadian champion of Jiu-Jitsu. That's all. Nothing special. My first meeting with her blew me away so much that my first words out of my mouth were, you need to come work for the Montreal Centre for Anxiety and Depression. That was over 5 years ago, and I have not looked back. It has been an incredible ride. She's been on Straight Talk many, many times, always offering her brilliance, and she's going to join us now. Welcome to the show, Georgia Dow. Come join me. Here she comes. Hi, Georgia.
Thank you, Sandra.
Welcome back.
Thank you. It's always hard for me to hear compliments. It's not something that's easy. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Sandra always speaks so well of me, but, you helped train me. You're a great friend and an amazing woman. And I have to say thank you so much for, such wonderful compliments back. That's one of my favorite things actually about Sandra is that, she really, if she thinks something, she shares nice things with others, and you always see the light in people. So thank you for that.
Oh, so very sweet. I'm so happy to have you back on Straight Talk. We're just about to go into a commercial break, but before we do, I'm wondering for you, you heard me with the start of the show, and you heard the feedback, and we had a lot of feedback on Facebook, Twitter, all over the place, how you felt after the show last week, and, delving into those boundaries and consequences.
Well, I had a lot of fun. I always have fun talking with you, and so it's really enjoyable to discuss this because I think it's really important. I think that for some people, they didn't even know that they could have consequences. How to implement them is a really difficult case, and so it was a lot of fun. I think that it was also hopefully informative to a lot of people because some people say, you know what, I didn't even know that this was possible for me to do or that I should be doing it, and it changes people's lives. So hopefully people got something from the last show, and they'll get even more from this show, plus a whole bunch of raffles and gifts. This show is going to be filled with all kinds of treats and information at the same time. What could be better? Yeah,
exactly. What could be better? So I'm going to mention before we go to the commercial what the raffle's about today because it's pretty exciting. So this one I won't tell you everything, but I'll tell she wants it, but she's not getting it.
I can't call in.
We're giving away on Straight Talk today 2 gift certificates for Spa Eastman. The one in the Eastern Townships, that's the one I go to with my women's retreat, and I've taken Georgia there on her birthday. It's a pretty awesome place. This is a gift certificate to enjoy the hot and cold water thermal facilities, which are, like, to me, the best that there are. And we're going to give these out to somebody who calls in with a question. So, again, you have the number. I'll just mention it again. It is 1-866-472-5792. Call in with your questions. And we're going to take a break. Don't forget your piece of paper. Write down some of your boundaries so that you know what you want to work on this week. We'll be right back with Straight Talk with Sandra Reich.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Centre for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reich. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary Anxiety Videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reich, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
A fresh look at today's health. Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reich. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reich.
We're back and we're having so much fun. It's illegal. It is illegal. I'm here with Robert, our clinical manager, filming us, and the lovely and brilliant Georgia Dow.
Thank you.
Before we get into it, and we already have a caller, before we get into it, Georgia, I talked a little bit about Anxiety Videos, which is a company we opened together, and I know you have a present today. We're not going to tell what the present is yet. Mm-hmm. We're going to keep people in suspense. But could you maybe tell a little bit about why we started Anxiety Videos? Because people ask that question, and I think you're the perfect person to answer it.
Well, we had two main reasons. One is that we can only help so many people. We do this for a living. We're specialists in treating anxiety and many other things, but we couldn't really reach as many people as we wanted to. And so this was a wonderful way that people could take us back to their house, do therapy in the privacy of their own home, because I think a lot of people would like to get the treatment but are shy, are worried, or can't afford to have private sessions. And so this was a great mid-ground that we could reach more people. The secondary reason is that a lot of times, even in my own sessions, it's like a 50-minute session once a week, and a lot of the information that we give is lost along the way.
Of course, the memory can only take so much.
And so this way you can re-listen to different facts and situations. And we've had people, right, that have listened to the video over and over again. If they have a panic attack, if they're dealing with boundaries, if they're dealing with the negative thought patterns, they can go back and re-listen to it. And so it's also, I think, a money saver in that way, even for people that are in therapy with other people. This lets them go through it. Plus, you know, it's a fun way that we deal with it. I think that our last comment was that it's really nice to have something that's serious to be talking about with, to be spoken about with a feeling of comfort and relaxation that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. So how do people get the videos?
So all you have to do is you head down to anxiety-videos.com, and then you can just order them and you get a download. The video is immediately, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about shipping. It's on whichever, computer that you feel comfortable watching it on, and you can watch it at your own leisure.
Now, what has been the feedback? I mean, a lot of your clients have purchased the videos. What are the feedback on these? Like the idea of doing anxiety treatment at home. What's the feedback you get?
They seem to love it because it's when they're actually feeling it, they can watch over the videos. They can rewatch it as they want to. And it's lovely because they can then, email in, or they can call in, or they can ask if they have any questions.
Yeah, we're on Twitter as well.
So that is true. You can tweet out to it, or you can check us out on Facebook, and then you can ask any questions that you have along with that.
Yeah, so we're on Facebook on Videos for Anxiety Treatment. Do you know the Twitter by heart?
Yes, I do. It's anxiety-videos.com.
Okay, and I just want to say that we are about to film again, and we're going to do a long one on boundaries and consequences. It's going to go beyond this show because there is a lot to learn on that, and we're doing one on depression as well coming up.
Yes,
but we've got a whole bunch on anxiety treatment, session 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where we're at right now, and also parenting.
Yes,
and sleep.
Yes, and also the cognitive distortions, which I think is good for anxiety, but it's good for you no matter what. I think that's a video that everyone should pick up.
So I have to ask then, what's a cognitive distortion?
So that's when you say something to yourself and it's actually kind of a lie. So I might think, oh my goodness, Sandra can't stand having me here on the show. And I had to pay her to actually have a spot here. And so that might, hopefully, that's actually a distortion. And then you can actually name what type of distortion. So what type of distortion would that be, Sandra?
She's mind reading. She's fortune telling and mind reading.
Vulcan mind meld.
And personalizing. Because how would she know how I felt about her being on the show? The truth is, I'm just kidding. I was going to make a joke. But if you really want to see what's going on between us right now, go on the Facebook Straight Talk Sandra Reich, because you can see the jokes I'm making that you can't hear on the air. Straight Talk Sandra Reich. So she would be assuming, and we all know about assuming. And instead of just asking, how do I feel about having her on the show? And unfortunately, because of negativity bias, we assume things that are very negative. So it's a very important one. I'm glad you brought that up. So yeah, you can find out more about that again on the website, anxiety-videos.com. Now, we have a caller, which means we have a winner and someone who wants to know something about boundaries and consequence. And I think I know who it is. So hi, Lori.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good to speak to you. What's your question?
So I wanted to know, I was talking to a friend of mine about your last show, and she said to me that women have more boundaries than men do, and 85% of women are walking out on their marriages now. So I'm confused. I don't know how accurate that is, and I was wondering how you guys feel about that.
Well, I think we probably both have something to say. So I'll start off, and I'm sure Georgia's going to want to say something too. I don't know if women have more boundaries than men. I think that sometimes I actually really don't know the answer to that, but I do know this, and we've talked about this before on the show, which is that men are better at boundaries. So if a man's boundaries are not being met, not being respected in his relationship, he is more likely to end the marriage quicker than when a woman's boundaries are not being respected. Women will tolerate a lot before they freak out. Men will tolerate little before they freak out. So they take their own boundaries more seriously. Georgia, what do you think about the idea of, do women have more boundaries than men? I think, if anything, we don't take ourselves seriously enough.
Yeah, I think that the greatest point is that we probably do not enact upon them quickly enough, and we often try to be good-natured and smile. And I think that part of that is culturally. Women are taught to smile and grin and bear it, and you're supposed to always be pleasant and don't cause conflict. I don't think that men would even see it as setting a boundary. They would just say that that's not something that I would tolerate, and it would be from the start. I think that the issue comes into play because women will accept things and then suddenly realize that, oh, wait a second, it's not okay with me, and they never really knew what their boundaries and consequences were at the beginning of a relationship because they were just so enjoyable and love-struck about being in a relationship. And so it might seem like women have more, but I don't think that in sessions I realize that anyone has more boundaries than the other. They may be different,
yes,
but I think that we both need to have them. I think it's healthy to have boundaries. It's not a bad word.
No, it's not. And Lori, it's such a great question because I don't know any statistic of women leaving marriages 85%, but I do know that affairs are on the rise for women. We used to always hear about men's affairs, and now we're seeing women having affairs more often. And I think Georgia brought up a really good point, is that we're socialized as women to grin and bear it. So what's happening is when women can't express their boundaries, what happens is they need an outlet. So actually expressing boundaries protects your relationship.
Yes.
Does that make sense, Lori?
Wow. So much. I was actually, when she told me that, I was like, I don't know about that. I feel like if my husband says that this isn't okay with me, then I stop doing it. And when I say that something's not okay with me, then I'm accused of nagging because I probably am.
You see, and that's interesting because having a boundary really, if someone tries to make you feel like it's nagging, they're manipulating you because you're allowed to have a boundary. That's not okay. Georgia has something to say. She's busting here.
Yes, and I think that women often can be accused of nagging, and sometimes we will repeat it because we will not enact the consequence part of the boundary. So me saying, you know what, it's not okay to arrive 15 minutes late, and then the next time that it happens, I say again, it's not all right to be 15 minutes late. But that's the same thing as a policeman. If policeman stopped me and said, you know what, please stop at stop signs, and the next time I did that, he just said, please stop at stop signs, really, I'm not going to stop at stop signs.
You might even roll your eyes at the policeman. You might even go, I've heard it all before. Stop the nagging.
Yes. What are you going to do about it?
Right. So I think that's really, Lori, again, you're helping us out here because I think that is the danger of it sounding like nagging. Good boundaries are not nagging. They're very firm and serious. They don't get repeated a lot because you mean business.
And something will be enacted if it is not respected.
Lori, I have good news for you.
Yes, tell me.
You're going to Eastman for the day.
Woohoo!
And Lori, I think you might have been to Eastman. Is that true?
I have been to the Empowered Women's Workshops over there. They are absolutely amazing. And it's such a wonderful place. It's just so gorgeous. And I was actually thinking about going up there. So I really appreciate this gift. I would be more than happy to take all of your gifts off your hands for you guys.
You're adorable. Lori, you deserve it. You have a full day at Spa Eastman. It includes a lunch, unlimited access to the thermal facilities. Thank you for mentioning Empowered Women Workshops. That's the women workshops that I do, so that's very nice of her to mention that. And our next one's coming up in February. So if you're interested in that, just go on the website, empoweredwomenworkshops.com. Lori will get the certificate for you. Any other questions, or are we clear on this?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If I have any more questions, I will post them on the Facebook page.
You're awesome. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye. So, Georgia, we're about to go to break, and I want to say something a little off on a side note. And, somehow I think it does have a segue with boundaries and consequence, and it has to do with self-care. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, which is Spa Maneri. And yes. I think you know Spa Maneri, and it's a wonderful place in the West Island.
Wonderful place, yeah.
And, why is self-care, why is Spa Maneri even a sponsor of this show? Why is self-care, in your opinion, relevant to anxiety treatment, boundaries, consequence? Is there a connection?
Yeah, I think that anxiety often swells up because we're not taking good enough care of ourselves. We're not listening to what our body needs. We're not allowing ourselves to relax. And I think that for a lot of people, they've never been taught that that's okay. And it's not just okay, it's essential. If you feel like I can't take care of myself because I have to hold up all of the walls of the house, well, I would say to you, what happens if the foundation of this breaks? And if you're holding up and taking care of many people, you have to make sure it's actually essential for you to make sure that you're taking care of yourself at the same time, because if you fall down, then so does everything else.
That's so well said, Georgia. My goodness.
Thank you.
So the owner of that spa, her name is Olga, and she knows about the show this week, and she's a very big fan and a very, very big supporter. And she's offering Straight Talk listeners, if you mention this week that you're a Straight Talk listener, she's going to give 15% off on massages. I think that would include you.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I think it might.
Oh, that might. I'm going to definitely do that. I'm going to mention. What do I have to mention when I call?
I am a Straight Talk with Sandra Reich listener.
That sounds
and
great.
You get a 15% discount on your massage at the beautiful Spa Maneri. And if you want more information, go on our Facebook. The information is there, or on the website, straighttalksandrareich.com.
Love it.
All there. So, Georgia, we have about 30 seconds before the break, and I would love for you to give a small little assignment for people to do on the break so that, they go get a snack, but they also do something. A small, quick one.
Okay, well, before you had asked everyone to go write down what would be their boundaries, and I would like everyone to think about what would be your consequence, be it a natural consequence or non, that you would give if that boundary was broken.
Amazing. So we're going to be back in a minute, but just to mention, we still have one more certificate.
Wait, that means that if I call in right now and ask the question.
Georgia. No, not
okay,
you.
if other people call in right now.
1-866-472-5792. We'll be right back with Straight Talk with Sandra Reich.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reich. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary Anxiety Videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reich, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
A fresh look at today's health. Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reich. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reich.
Hi, we're back. So much to say and such a great discussion we're having and so important. On the break, Georgia was talking about something I definitely want to get on the radio, so we're going to get to that. I wanted to mention that our cameraman today is Robert Wise. He's our clinical manager and has been with me for 5 years. He's been an incredible asset to this clinic, and many of you know him. And he got so inspired working here that he went back to school recently and he's become a coach. And I have to tell you, I was on a trip with him. I was at Trauma for the couple retreat, and I was having a dilemma in my life. So he said, let me practice my coaching. And it was really great to have, first of all, it's always great as a therapist for you to be sitting in the seats.
It's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, and coaching's different than therapy. It's really staying on the here and now, and it really helps you to find your own answers. And it really helped me. It actually started a whole thing, a bunch of things happening for me. And Robert got all excited when he heard about the gifts today, and he said he wanted to offer a gift too. So he's actually, for a caller, he's willing to offer a half-hour free coaching session.
Oh, that's lovely.
Isn't that nice of him?
Now, could this also happen if they just want to do it just on the phone so they can
Skype.
be anywhere they want?
Anywhere in the world.
30 minutes for free.
And I am not just saying it. I'm nice, but I'm not that nice. Okay? His coaching helped me to change something in my life that was very problematic. And it was something he said, reiterated something I said back to me that made me realize I need to make a change. So I really recommend you take advantage of that. Plus, Robert is just out of school, so he's offering free now, but it won't always be free.
Yes, exactly. Grab it now.
Yes. So you can call us again. The number is 1-866-472-5792 if you're interested in Spa Eastman or Robert or any questions of any kind. So, Georgia, we were talking on the break about the two homeworks that we gave on the break, which was one being what are your boundaries and then what are your consequences? And you started to tell a story about how you brought that into your family. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be really helpful for people to hear how you set that up. So can you tell us about that?
So what happened is that we, I have kids, and so my husband and I were like, there's some things that are happening in our home, and we're not really happy about it, and we want to figure out how are we going to deal with this. And so what we did is we wrote down all of the maladaptive things that were happening in the house. It was too loud, the kids are pushing each other, they're not respecting us. We wrote down a list of everything down, and people often say, Georgia, do you use these techniques that you give to others? And I do. And even though I could probably figure it out in my head, it is better once it is written. It's concrete. I can go back to it. And also I can track change, which is lovely. So we wrote down all the things that weren't working in the house. Then we only chose 2 of them. I think that I chose 3, but usually you should pick 1 or 2 things that we are going to work on, and they're going to have consequences to them. Now, again, that doesn't mean that I'm just letting it off. If my children are going to say something that's rude, That may not be one of the things that's consequence to right away, but I'm still going to address that. But there's 3 things that I'm going to address 95% of the time. I'm always on duty for these 3 things.
An example, please.
So one of them was the kids yelling. Yelling was immediately, we wanted that to stop. And so then we went through what are the consequences to this. And it was just, if they yell, they sit down on the stairs. That's it. Simple, easy. You have a little bit of a sit down if you yell. And a good consequence is one in which the person that's having the consequence will have to enact it more than you will. If you're doing more work than the person that's having the consequence, this is not a good consequence. Because if I had
Very good points. Repeat, please.
It should be something that the person that has the consequence should have to go through more work for than you.
So if it hurts you more, that's not the consequence.
It's not good, and you will not enact it. So if I am driving down to my friend's house and I say, and I want to see my friend, and my kids are acting unruly in the car, and I say, I'm going to turn the car around, I'm punishing myself more than my children. That is not going to work out. But if I say, you guys are being unruly, I'm taking away your technology that you're playing with in the car, now that affects them more than me, and I still get to see my friend. And so writing it down, and then we wrote them and we stuck them on the wall. The kids knew what were the rules, and that was lovely because it got rid of the guilt factor. I didn't even have to feel bad. They yelled, and I would just be like, oh,
look at the wall.
Look at the wall. And I didn't have to think. You know when you're really upset? Sometimes you give a consequence and it's too strong or not strong enough and you're upset. This was great because I didn't have to think about what was the consequence on the fly. I could just say, that's what it is, and I could actually say, I'm so sorry. You know,
we agreed upon this. You know, it's funny that you say that because people worry a lot that this is too controlling, and it's actually the opposite of controlling because by doing it, it actually creates like a cohesive environment.
Right.
I'm reminded by you talk about kids, and I don't want to compare marriage to kids, but there's rules of engagement, and I'm reminded by the fact that when I took my mat leave for my son, we had such a good time, my husband and I, and there were reasons we had good times, and so we agreed together to write down the habits we had gone into that were so good for us. Now, we didn't put it down as a boundary or consequence, but we made an affidavit.
Yes.
And the affidavit, we didn't go to a notary or anything, but the affidavit was, for example, we're going to not bring home bad moods. A lot of my couples talk about one of them coming in a bad mood. That, for us, was a boundary. Like, I work with clients, it's heavy. He works in the computer business. It can be frustrating. But we don't want to bring our worst self to each other. So we wrote it down, and it really helps. So it sounds a lot like your system. We didn't put a consequence because he's not a child, but we have the affidavit to go to like, we're slipping into bad moods. We don't want to do that in our marriage. That's just not what we want to do.
Yeah, I would love to address that point because I think that it's a very important point that a lot of people find that having boundaries and consequences means that it's controlling.
Yeah, I could tell you wanted to say something about that.
Yeah, because I think it's just so true. I hear that a lot. Yeah. And I think that it's not controlling to give boundaries and consequences. It actually would be cruel of you not to. So say that I felt hurt every time you showed up to see me, you were 20 minutes late. And that hurt me.
Yeah.
It would be cruel of me not to let you know of that. And that could be a consequence. Just mentioning it could be its own natural consequence.
Because it probably would make me feel quite bad. But I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Well,
okay?
Can I say the point to doing it is so that the other person understands you. And
that's what I was going to devil advocate you. I was going to say, how could you say that it would be cruel? I don't want to hear that I'm a bad person. Why is it cruel? I was just going to give you even more leverage.
That was perfect and smooth.
Yes.
Absolutely right. Well, the thing is that if it happened to me, it would actually damage our relationship. If I was not telling you, after a while, maybe not time 1, maybe not time 2, but time 100, it goes back to the toothpaste cap on the toothpaste, is that I would start to feel animosity towards you. And it wouldn't really even be your fault because I had never let you know.
Oh, how many times are couples in here with this and men listening or women listening to is often that comes out in the sex life. I'm bitter and resentful. How did we segue to sex? But it's relevant. You're right.
True.
That's what flashed in my head is if you're holding it in, sucking it in, you're bitter and resentful about that toothpaste cap, you're not in the mood.
No, and it wouldn't be good sex in that because that takes sharing and intimacy and trust. And if you're not sharing things of what interacts with you, your consequence, maybe I just mention it, does not have to be something that is punitive in nature. And I think that people often hear the word consequence and they think that it's punitive. Simply speaking about that, letting the other person know, people often don't think that they have a right to that because that would be them nagging. And I think that that's a really good point between what is nagging versus what is communicating how you feel.
I think that's so important. Like, I can't even move beyond this point because for myself, I was, like many listeners, that woman who would feel, I don't want to start a fight. It's going to be unpleasant. I don't want a bad vibe. Maybe I'm making too big a deal of nothing. I know you guys listening are relating to this because I hear this all the time. And actually, I think you're right. It's a gift to the relationship. It protects the relationship because relationships that break often are relationships when people never fought. Mm-hmm. Can you believe that? They never fought. And those are the ones that break up the fastest because they're seething, and resentment kills love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And even if you're not sure if this is your thing or their thing, I think that it's still something that you should share to find out. You can bring this up and it could be all of your issue, but it should still be something that you speak about so that you're aware. It could be that I get hurt when you call me monster because this is something mean that used to happen between my family, but at least if you know that, it's just a regular word that you might use and that it hurts me. But if you know that, then you'll know not to tread there, especially when we're upset at each other, where it could be damaging to me.
So those people listening who this week took it upon themselves to put a boundary and things got a little worse, mm-hmm. And they're starting to feel a little like frustrated, maybe even a little hopeless with it, their kids, their partners, whatever. Maybe it's hopeful to hear that you are actually doing something extremely good for your relationship that will actually make your relationship more secure. You just have to get through the discomfort. And that's what I used to find hard is the discomfort. It's not fun when you're not on a good vibe with your kid or with your partner. It's not fun. But you know what? Sometimes you have to go through the bad vibe to get to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, and I think that a lot of people don't. It's actually common and healthy and normal for once you set a consequence, even at work, when you set a new set of rules that comes in, so say that you're managing something and there's a new set of rules, there's always going to be a little bit of discomfort as everyone resettles. A child with a lollipop wants to have the lollipop 24/7, but you have to take the lollipop away, and the child will be upset. That does not mean that you've done something wrong. A lot of times we carry other people's emotions on our own shoulders when it is theirs to carry, and you have to respect them enough that they can resettle and adjust to that.
It's really fun to talk with you about boundaries and consequences because we do very much feel the same way about this. And I think that has a lot to do with why we do anxiety videos together. It'd be hard to do something like that if we had different views on it.
It would probably be interesting for people to watch as we battle it out. Yes.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about the feedback on anxiety videos, I actually was thinking about the people who talk about our banter. Yes. Our banter may not be so good if we were like, excuse me, but I disagree. So, boundaries and consequences. If you're working with a professional or a therapist, you want to work with someone who themselves have good boundaries and consequences. And that's one of my fears when I hire a therapist. If they show bad boundaries, we say you can't be a great therapist if you don't walk the walk. I was recently asked what is the biggest challenge in opening this clinic, and that was the biggest challenge, is to find and for people who are in therapy, check that your therapist is walking the walk. Does she or he have good boundaries, or do they apply consequences? You may not like if they charge you for the session if they don't show up, but actually that shows that they respect your time and theirs. Very important. Well said. So we're going to take a commercial. Why don't we make this commercial a chance to sort of absorb what's been said and maybe get a drink of water, because we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Anxiety Videos special gift today.
Yes.
And sort of the things that stood out I was going to say the session, but in Straight Talk, it feels a bit like a session.
Feels like a session.
Yeah. Well, I'm having a great time with you. And thanks,
too.
Robert. You're doing a great job. And Aaron, our engineer. So this is Straight Talk with Sandra Reich, and we'll be right back.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reich. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary Anxiety Videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reich, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Your life, your health, your network. This is Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reich. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reich.
So we're back, and before I go any further, I just want to mention I still have a gift certificate. I know a lot of you are shy, but it might be worth getting on the phone, 1-866-472-5792 if you're in the Montreal area, for Spa Eastman. A day at Spa Eastman is a very special day indeed. Give us a call. Or if you want to delve into a goal in your life that you're having trouble dealing with, you definitely want to call in to get that 30 minutes free with Robert Wise. He's fabulous. So, Georgia, we're back. We're having such a good time. Time is running out. So there's a number of things I want to talk to you about before we do run out of time. Okay, first of all, people always ask me how they can find you. So I'm going to start by saying you're here at the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression, and you specialize in what?
I specialize in anxiety, depression, parenting, and, goal setting for what you might be wanting to reach.
And behavioral charts, like what you talked about with
behavioral
kids.
charts and fears and phobias, OCD.
And that's not all you do. You do a lot of things.
I do technology podcasts at night. So I deal with video games and technology Apple products. So I'm on the iMore Show and Disruption and Twit and other things like that, which is a lot of fun.
She's very lazy. Georgia, I called you up this week.
You did.
You're also the co-director of AnxietyVideos.com with myself.
Yes.
And I said I'm going to start a new segment on the show with a gift for listeners. And I asked you to come up with something on behalf of Anxiety Videos. So I'd like to know what I know, but I'd like you to tell people what you came up with and why did you choose that gift?
So what I chose was a basic breathing technique. The reason that I chose it was because it is one of the first techniques that I teach to people. It's simple, it's easy to do, and it is absolutely life-changing. It's not even a joke how effective this technique is. It is I am requesting of people about 3 minutes a day of their day to practice this technique, and if you do that, in 2 to 3 weeks you will be skilled enough to drop your blood pressure, to heal faster, to increase your immune system, to lower your anxiety, to increase focus. I do it before I go on shows. I do this before I do a presentation, and it's life-changing to be able to help. It will lower your blood pressure. It'll lower your glucose levels. It's lovely. And so I thought that would be a really great gift that people could apply almost immediately to have amazing effects of change in their life.
Yeah, and I just want to say the research what you said is so important. The research shows unequivocally that you actually will live a longer life if you practice breathing. And so it's not just breathing. You didn't give no. It's actually a type of breathing that we are not skilled as adults to do. Babies are skilled. And it actually, when we do our videos, we often do the breathing to make sure that we're not talking too fast. When we're with a difficult client, we do it.
Yes. And I can tell even when I'm doing a presentation, I'm just explaining the breathing.
Excuse me.
When I listen back to my voice, I can hear that my voice is an octave lower. Yeah. And that means that it's been effective, because when you're stressed out, your voice raises in octaves, and when you're feeling more calm, it's lower. And so I use this all the time, and it's lovely. So this was my gift from Anxiety Videos, and your gift from Anxiety Videos to all of the listeners. So how do they get it, though?
What they're going to do is you're going to go on straighttalksandrareich.com/radio gifts. straighttalksandrareich.com/radio gifts. And then they're going to see a link for your wonderful MP3 that you've made, and they can just push on it. You just put your email in so you can stay in touch with us. And if you have any questions or ideas for the show, go ahead, write them. We'd love to be in touch with you, and you will automatically get the download. There's no cost. There's no hidden gimmick, no credit cards. I hate those where it sounds free and you have to start giving your credit card. No credit card. And you'll have the breathing strategy, and I cannot recommend enough instituting in your life if you're not anxious. Now, if you are anxious, it's a game changer. If there's any strategy in my years as a therapist that has changed people's lives, believe it or not, it's the breathing strategy. People who can't even walk up the stairs to the clinic. Yes. Driving phobia, air phobia, all of that. So thank you very much, Georgia. Again, straighttalksandrareich.com/radio gifts to get that wonderful gift from Anxiety Videos. Thank you so much. Georgia, I'm curious, having been on the show twice, and we're starting to get towards the end on boundaries and consequences, what do you feel has stood out for you on talking about it? What's been big for you in talking about it for two hours, really?
Well, I think that one of the biggest things is that even if you have not enacted consequences ever in your life before, this is something that you can start now. It's not a skill that you needed to learn young. It's something that can change your life, that you can feel more respected, that you can feel more calm. It brings back power to you, and I think that that's one of the biggest things that I took back from the show, is that it's not too late. If you have not started enacting boundaries and consequences, you can do that now and make your home different, make your work experience different. How about you, Sandra?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because I have one too, is that what really stood out for me is that we've come back to the idea last week and this week that consequences do always work. So for people listening that it's not working, they haven't found the right consequences. And that really stood out for me, because I know it, but talking about it reminded me, is they do always work. Human nature is in that way highly predictable. Okay, we move towards pleasure, we move away from pain. So if you keep getting a ticket from the policeman, you're eventually going to start making those stops. You're going to run out of money. So if it's not working for you yet, it will work. Keep the faith.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and even if it starts to get worse at first, that means that it's working out well, like you said. That Sandra had said earlier, which I think is a great point, that if, sometimes it's actually the sign that you said, that it's the sign that you're doing it right, is if someone's reacting to it, and that's not a bad thing. Stay the course.
Amazing. Last tip. Any last tips?
Okay, so my last tip is get out some pen and paper. If you said, you know what, I'm not going to do it, really, give it a shot. If it does not work, you can write in and tell us how horrible it was for whatever reasons. I've had no one ever do that before. So give it a try. Pen and paper, write down the things that are not working in your life and say, is it because I have allowed someone to overstep their bounds with me? Be that at work, be that there. My one biggest boundary and consequence to work, you're going to try to enact this now, is people that do not actually leave their desk for their lunch break. If you are at work and you are working through your lunch, you're giving away an hour of your time for free. Not okay. So my first one is make sure you always take your lunch break, and if possible, leave your desk and probably leave the actual building. People will find you and they'll make you do work. If you're sitting at your desk, that means that you're on duty. So go out and get your lunch and relax, and maybe even do the deep breathing while you're at it.
Great idea. So, yeah, I think that that's so important, and I think my final tip before we, call it a day, is that really boundaries and consequences is about being true to yourself. And like we talked about, if you're not true to yourself, something inside of you starts to die. And that's a little bit what we talk about with disease. The body is uncomfortable. So whether it's a physical disease, whether it's a symptom of anxiety and depression, your body is talking to you. And boundaries and consequence might be the first pathway to being true to yourself and not dismissing your needs. We're all different, and we all have different boundaries and different needs that we have. And what I need to feel respected is not what Georgia needs, and that's okay. And we have a relationship, and we've had times we've had to negotiate our boundaries and consequences, and we've lived to tell the story. We love each other.
And become stronger because of it.
Yeah. So, again, I urge you to consider being true to yourself this week, next week, the week after, and finding out usually you feel it in the solar plexus, which ironically is the same area you're going to do the breathing in. I urge you, when you feel something hurting, to be true to yourself and to speak in a respectful way to the person in question about asking them not to violate your boundaries. So consider that. As usual, keep your eyes on the stars. This is Straight Talk with Sandra Reich. It was lovely to have you, Georgia Dow. Thank you so much. Get your gift on straighttalksandrareich.com/radio gifts, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reich. We hope you've enjoyed today's show, and we'll tune in again next Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. Now, go live your best life.